The Vols have 9 new starters on offense this year. They're going to have 9 new starters. The only returning starters they have are Miles Kitzelman at tight end and Lance Hurd at left tackle. Chris Brazzell, I consider a semi-returning starter. Chris Brazzell and Deshaun Bishop, I consider semi-returning starters. They were reliable players for Tennessee last year, impact players, but they weren't officially starters, but they played enough to not fit this list of what I'm going to say right now, which is who will be the breakout offensive stars for Tennessee this year. Now, to be a breakout star, you have to have been on the team last year and had a very minimal role, meaning you barely played, but you could be in the rotation this year. And this is going to be hot or cold. It's brought to you by Sports Treasures for carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia daily updates. Facebook.com/sports treasures TN. Facebook.com/sports treasures TN. Hot or cold coming in now. Which breakout stars will there be on offense? Tennessee has to replace all their receivers, 4 or 5 offensive linemen, their all-world running back, and their quarterback. Obviously, their quarterback, Joey Aguilar, is not eligible, and I just told you Deshaun Bishop is not eligible. Who is eligible? Peyton Lewis. Will Peyton Lewis be a breakout star? I'm hot on that. I'm hot on Peyton Lewis being a breakout star. I told you guys I think he will win the starting job. Now, I did predict he'd win the starting job over Dylan Sampson last year. I was wrong. 1, because Dylan Sampson was way better than I thought he would be, but 2, because Peyton Lewis was battling an injury the whole year. But I am hot this year on Peyton Lewis being a superstar running back. Peyton Lewis will be a key player. Hot on him. Ethan Davis. Can he be a breakout star? The complimentary tight end to Miles Kitzelman with Holden Stays gone. Yes, I'm hot on him. He's a better athlete than Miles Kitzelman. Miles Kitzelman will be the starter, but Miles Kitzelman is hurt to start the season. With that in mind, I am high on Ethan Davis being a breakout star for Tennessee. Ethan Davis has rare physical abilities, and he was a highly touted prospect in the 2023 recruiting class. I think it is now time that Ethan Davis become a breakout player. On the offensive line. Now, of the new starters on the offensive line, I told you Lance Hurd's a returning starter. He's not eligible. But 3 of the 4 new starters were not on the team last year. And I'm projecting Sam Pendleton and Wendell Moe to be the starting guards and David Sanders as the starting right tackle. Pendleton and Moe were transfers. Sanders is a 5-star freshman. None of them can fit this list. Who could fit this list? A few other guys I want to name. Shamarad Umarov. I'm cold on him. I think he's got potential, but I do think that there's a little bit more development that's going to have to happen. I think he'll be a rotational guy this year, but I think that's about as far as it's going to go for him. Max Anderson. Again, cold on him. I think he'll be a backup, but I think he'll be a decent player long-term, and he'll be a serviceable guy for depth. William Satterwhite. I'm sizzling on him. Sizzling. I am extremely high. I'm extremely hot on William Satterwhite becoming a breakout player for Tennessee this year on the offensive side of the ball. I don't see any reason he shouldn't be. I think his potential is through the roof. Now, I'm setting up a poll question real quick, and we'll have it after a quick message from Sports Treasures, but it's going to be, who will be Tennessee's biggest breakout player this year who was on the team but didn't? That's too much. Who will be Tennessee's biggest breakout player this year? And we'll say on offense. And I'm going to name Peyton Lewis. How about which reserve from 2024? Which reserve on the 2024 Vols will be Tennessee's biggest breakout player this year on offense? I'm going to go Peyton Lewis. I'm going to go William Satterwhite. I'm going to go Ethan Davis. And obviously now we're going to move to the receiver spot. First, a quick message from Sports Treasures.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
All right, breakout players on offense at the receiver spot. I already told you guys Chris Brazel's not available or eligible for this. So let's name the other guys. Tennessee loses all three starting receivers from last year. Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, Squirrel White. I've given you guys my hot take. I think they should be better this year at receiver because Brew McCoy last year was coming off of season-ending broken leg injury from the year before, which forced him to medically retire from football because he didn't get drafted in the NFL. He wasn't able to dictate coverage, and he was the only receiver experienced in the system who could dictate coverage last year. That slowed everything down. On top of that, Dante Thornton was the complementary piece on the other side. He was coming off a season-ending injury, and then Squirrel White was the slot receiver playing with a separated shoulder the whole year. Caused major issues. That's why Chris Brazel got into the rotation, and he's the one returning starter this year. So he's not eligible. I'll get to the name one in a second. First, Braylon Staley, breakout player. I'm cold on that. The reason I'm cold on that is because Braylon Staley is going to split time with Boo Carter in the slot this year because those are some promises made to Boo Carter. So I think because of that, I'm cold on Braylon Staley being a breakout player. Mike Matthews as a breakout player. I think this one's obvious. I think Mike Matthews is going to be a breakout player. I think Mike Matthews is going to be a superstar immediately. You'll see him with all-American potential. Joey Aguilar is going to throw it up and let him make a play. And look at Mike Matthews is going to be elite for the Vols this year. What about Trey Weary, the walk-on? Look, Tennessee has three true freshman receivers. We told you they aren't eligible for this list, and Travis Smith Jr., Darius Jackson, and Joaquin Dotson. It's also true that receivers, particularly wideouts, have a hard time learning this system, so they wouldn't play anyway. They also have a transfer in Amari Jefferson, who is also hurt and won't play likely this year, and he wouldn't be eligible since he's a transfer. So if anything goes wrong with Matthews, Brazel, or Staley, particularly Matthews or Brazel, the only returning wide receiver they have is Trey Weary, who is a walk-on. Could he be a breakout player? No, I'm cold on that. Trey Weary's not going to be a breakout player. Sorry, not happening. Totally cold on him. What about, let's move to a few other guys real quick. Now, the poll question up, which reserve on the 2024 Vols will be Tennessee's biggest breakout player this year on offense? Peyton Lewis, William Satterwhite, Ethan Davis, Mike Matthews. 62% of you say Mike Matthews, 25% say Ethan Davis, 12% say Peyton Lewis, 0% say William Satterwhite. I'm with you guys. It's going to be Mike Matthews. It's going to be Mike Matthews. He's going to be the biggest breakout star on this team. I'm very high on that. Now, a couple of players that were mentioned back on the offensive line real quick that we need to get to. Bennett Warren, Gage Ginther, and Jesse Perry, and Brian Grant, and Jeremiah Hurd are all offensive linemen who are returning reserves from last year's team. I do think Warren and Ginther and Grant could be rotational guys, but I don't think they'll be breakout players. I can't see that happening. So I'm actually cold on them. Also, Jesse Perry, I don't know if that was just coach speak that he could surge towards a potential starting role this year. I could be wrong. I'm seeing a lot of touting of him, but I just don't see how if he does become a starting role, then if he does become a starter, I mean, he has put on 50 pounds since arriving at Knoxville, which is a huge boost. But if he does, that's kind of a bit of an indictment on the transfers Tennessee went after, which they got to make Nico Iamaleava happy. Now, here's one we haven't named, and it goes back to the quarterback battle race we talked about to open the show. What about Jake Merklinger? He was a reserve last year. Could he be a breakout player this year? If he's the starting quarterback, he would be. The answer is no, because he's not going to be the starter. Josh Heupel's not going to give him a fair shake. I've told you guys that. I still stick with that. That's still firmly my belief, is that Josh Heupel is not going to give Jesse Perry a fair shake whatsoever. That's kind of where I land on this. Now, as far as transfers and newcomers that are most likely to make the biggest impact, I would say obviously Joey Aguilar stands out. David Sanders is the biggest one, but that's a topic for another day. Specifically, who will be the biggest breakout stars? Mike Matthews, Peyton Lewis, Ethan Davis and William Satterwhite are to me the surefire breakout stars for what's going on this year for Tennessee. I don't really see anybody else that's going to make that list. Again, very high on all those guys. We'll see how it all plays out going forward, but I think that those are the top guys. Now, I will also say that I'll address David Speak's point. Brent Hubb saying he's legitimately being considered for the starting right guard spot. I think you're referring to Jesse Perry, David, and I think that's possible. I just have a hard time believing it. Look, there's a lot of, and it's funny of what Josh Caleb thinks you're lying. Now you know what Donald Trump feels like. I do think Josh Heupel's lying. I think Josh Heupel lies a lot. I think he's very cagey and he lies more than most coaches. So with that in mind, yes, I don't believe Josh Heupel when certain players are touted, and I think Jesse Perry could be on that list. But we'll see how it all goes.